Art is a language, and the language is a way of communicating information and feelings. Language is sort of like a primitive way of mind reading. And we are all just clumps of matter walking around trying to mind read each other. And language is all about trying to communicate what I want or what I think about what you want. It's an immediate consequence of consciousness. We have separate groups of consciousness walking around trying to understand each other. But language is so much more than just spoken language. Spoken language is like this very small group of language. Language is such a larger concept than that. It's any attempt of communicating. And art is all about expressing yourself. It's all about taking something that you feel and manifesting it some way. That's why art is such an abstract thing. It can be so many things. It's just anything can be used to say something about how you feel. People don't usually think of math as art, but it is. If you're using math to express something, then it is. It's as much art as anything else. It's also why you can't really grade art, because who's to say what's art and what isn't? You can categorize art. You can say this is an internal kind of art or an external kind of art. Are you trying to say something about yourself and your feelings, or are you trying to say something about society? Is it more political? There are some examples of great art in literature. Art that says something about society, like for instance George Orwell's Animal Farm. Animal Farm is a great commentary on socialism and politics. Surely it was written in a time where socialism was something very different than what it is in today's society, but what made it great art is that George Orwell was saying something about society. He was expressing himself through literature. And that's art. That's with the amount of influence that he had and how widespread his work became, one could even say that it's great art. And so in a lot of ways, art is sort of like a hunt for attention. It's a call for everyone to look at me, to pay attention to what I'm saying. And so maybe and that's also the thing about language, you know? For one, you're saying something that you want to communicate, but you're also attempting to make people listen. And there are no rule sets to art, but one way to look at it would be that, say that great art is art that could make people listen. In a lot of ways, this also sort of paints a picture of art that some people deem as strange or pointless. Like putting up a white canvas And a lot of people would argue that that's not art, it's just a white canvas, it doesn't do anything. But if you could make me stop and think about it, you have successfully made an art piece. Right? I mean, it's all sort of things you can say with a blank canvas. I heard once that good art is a art with 1,000 faces. That's the kind of art where you put it out there and you're not even necessarily... Maybe you had some sort of an intention about what you're saying, but that's not necessarily the point. Maybe the point is just to put something out there and let other people interpret it. And then you're not just expressing yourself, you're putting out a statement through which other people express themselves. 10 people look at a blank canvas and they see 10 different things. They reference their own situations in life in 10 different ways. And there's this entire idea that artists are the recluse, the silent, sort of depressing person. And in a way, that's not entirely incorrect. Because the thing is, when it comes to this kind of internal art where you're just trying to say something, it more often manifests itself through feelings of sadness and depression. And I think the reason for this is that when you're trying to express yourself through art, you're usually trying to say things that aren't easy to just say through words. Right? I mean, and I might get some flack for this, but in a lot of ways, these kinds of unhealthy and not recommended ways of hurting yourself is art. Right? Like anorexia. To some degree, cutting yourself. Right? Because I think in a lot of ways, people who go through these kinds of things are trying to say something. Even, maybe not even necessarily that they're conscious about what they're trying to say or exactly why they're doing or feeling the way that they're feeling. But I think from my experience that in a lot of ways you're just trying to say something about how you feel inside. But you don't feel comfortable talking about it. And in some ways, you're putting all these feelings inside of you and your body is just desperately trying to express how you feel by starving yourself. You're trying to paint your own body like a picture that's telling the world that, pay attention to me, I need someone to listen. And I need someone to notice that I am in pain. And great feelings of happiness don't necessarily need that kind of medium, because it's not that difficult to talk about the things that you're happy about in life, or the things that are going your way in life. So in a lot of ways, we feel discouraged to put happy feelings into art because it just doesn't feel as necessary in a lot of ways. Art is sort of like a medium to say the things that you don't dare to say otherwise. Well, Frank Kafka wrote about the hunger artist. It's this sort of like circus act. This man who just stands in the square and starves himself in front of a bunch of people. And, the entertainment comes from trying to see how long can this guy go without eating anything. And then he just goes and goes and goes. And in the story, he can go for it looks like he can go forever. Like he can just continue starving himself until he evaporates. And in a lot of ways you could say that the hunger artist was trying to say something about society, or about entertainment, or struggle, or passion, or... But I think the hunger artist was trying to say something about himself. The hunger artist, towards the end of the story, as he starts losing his audience, the thing that bothers him the most is that people don't pay attention to him anymore. And it's entirely unclear what kind of statement he needs them to understand. But he's just obsessed about the fact that people don't pay attention to him anymore. In a lot of ways, I think he's just trying to say that he's in pain. And he needs people to look. He needs people to understand that he needs help. Because he doesn't know how to tell them otherwise. But art can be happy as well. I mean, you can have great displays of love and affection and passion. You're just trying to, in some sort of ritualistic sense, put down your feelings into the world. And you're trying to say that this is a monument to how I feel. But either way, it's always about language. It's about saying something. It's about, can I show you this and make you understand? Can I tell you something through just a couple of words? Something that goes beyond just the words that I'm saying. Can I input some sort of subtext to my lines that tells you more about me than the actual words themselves separately? How much meaning can I put into a sentence? Can I make you understand what I'm thinking? I want you to read my mind. I think that's what art is. I just want you to read my mind.